what can I like tell you if I'm ducking for my life?
New audio recordings have emerged from the night when YNW Bortlen allegedly killed his two best friends. In the recordings, YNW Bortlen is heard talking to the police, recounting what happened. Now, YNW Melly exposes the recording and will put Bortlen in jail and save him from the death penalty. In October 2018, some creepy stuff went down involving YNW Melly and his crew. They were chilling at a recording studio just having a good time, but things took a tragic turn that nobody saw coming. Shortly after they left the recording studio, YNW Juvie and YNW Sack Chaser were brutally shot and killed. It was a shocker, man, and guess who was left to deal with the aftermath? YNW Bortlen. He had to take their lifeless bodies to a nearby hospital. The story he told was that they got caught in a drive-by shooting in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But justice has a way of catching up with you. They got hit with an indictment by a grand jury, slapping them with charges of premeditated first-degree murder for Sack and Juvie. It was a serious mess they found themselves in. And on February 13th, 2019, the hammer finally dropped. They were arrested and thrown behind bars. Melly kept claiming he was innocent and pleaded not guilty as the legal battle began. After a long wait, YNW Melly's trial's finally in full swing. It took the state 5 years to build their case against him, and now they're bringing it to the courtroom. The jury selection was a crucial step as the fate of Melly rests in their hands. They're going all out, seeking the death penalty and making it very clear that they consider these crimes to be serious business. Now, people, we got into a serious situation. Melly is accused of a brutal double homicide, and the state is pushing hard to prove that he's a heartless, cold-blooded goon. But the defense ain't backing down either. They're challenging the state's ability to back up those kind of claims, questioning the evidence and the investigation. So let's rewind to that fateful night back in October of 2018. After Bortlen showed up at the hospital with Juvie and Sack Chaser dead in the car, he claimed it was a drive-by shooting. But his lack of injuries raised some eyebrows, and we'll get to the snitching to the cops in a minute. Now, for what happened that night, Bortlen is facing his own charges, while Melly could be looking at the death penalty. And get this, Florida recently introduced a new law so that a vote of 8-4 in favor of the death penalty is enough, instead of the requiring unanimous decision. That's a big deal. The trial kicked off with the prosecution's opening statements, with Assistant State Attorney Christine Bradley going hard on Melly. She painted him as a heartless killer, presenting a chilling account of the events that unfolded that night. But Melly's defense team ain't letting it slide. Attorney David Howard came in swinging, casting doubts on the state's case. He questioned the credibility of the investigation and suggested that the detectives had tunnel vision, fixating on Melly as the sole perpetrator. He also raised doubts about the forensic evidence, pointing out the lack of the murder weapon and challenging the reliability of gunshot residue testing. That was going to be their strategy from day one, exploit the fact that this is a circumstantial case. In the second week of the trial, there have been a lot of ups and downs. We've seen all sorts of drama, with allegations of prosecutorial misconduct and some new evidence that could link Melly to the crime. It's been a wild ride, man. The focus recently shifted to cell phone evidence, which is a big deal in trials these days. This FBI agent, Brendan Collins, came in and talked about analyzing 2 phones connected to Melly and one of the victims. The prosecution is saying that the data from these phones puts Melly near the victims right before they were found dead. But the defense claims otherwise. They're questioning the accuracy of the location data and even raising doubts about whether Melly was the only one using that phone. Another piece of interesting evidence they talked about was the DNA analysis. The prosecution brought up some DNA stuff that suggests Melly was in the car where the shootings happened. But the defense pointed out that Melly's DNA didn't match some of the other stuff that they tested. They're casting doubt on his direct involvement in the crime. The prosecution also tried to establish a motive for the killings by bringing up Melly's supposed affiliation with the G-Shine Bloods gang. They talked about his social media posts, videos, and references to the gang in his songs, trying to show a connection between Melly and the gang. But the defense ain't convinced. They're questioning whether this whole gang image is for real or just something he just puts on for social media. The prosecution is clearly aiming to prove Melly's guilt beyond any reasonable doubt. They're even gunning for a conviction with the possibility of the death penalty. On the other side, the defense is doing everything they can to challenge the evidence and raise doubts about Melly's involvement in the crime. It's a high-stakes battle, and the outcome of this trial is going to have some major implications for Melly's future and the whole justice system. An interesting turn of events took place during the 3rd week of the trial. So there was this super meticulous analyst who took the stand as the sole witness. This dude went to great lengths to reconstruct the whole sequence of events and completely debunk the idea of a drive-by shooting. Turns out things were way more up close and personal than they seemed. During a postpartum checkup, they found something interesting on YNW Juvie's body. He had an injury on his left cheek with stippling, which is basically tiny gunshot residue marks. This shooting expert dude came forward and explained how investigators figured out where the shots came from and the path they took. It's some CSI level stuff, man. As we put the pieces together, it's clear that those shots didn't come from a car just passing by. Nah, they originated from the back seat of the driver's side. It's like a puzzle slowly coming together. But here's the real question, and something that's in handy for Melly's defense. Nobody can tell exactly how much time passed between the fatal shots and the meticulously planned cover-up. Why is that crucial, you might ask? Well, that period of time is important because it allows the victims' hearts to stop beating and blood circulation to cease. The evidence presented during the trial raises doubts about whether the firearm used were actually authentic. What's intriguing in this case is that the witness, this shooting expert, couldn't recall ever witnessing a scene like this throughout his whole career. That adds a whole new level of mystery to the trial. It's like a real-life detective story unfolding in that courtroom. Now, coming back to Borland and what he told the cops in a new recording that we acquired, YNW Borland could be in some deep trouble because of his statement. You see, Borland talked to the police after the shooting went down, recounting what happened on that night that he and Melly allegedly got targeted in a drive-by. Initially, he arrived alone at the hospital with the bodies of his deceased friends, Sack and Juvie, in the car. According to Borland and Melly, they had left the studio and were suddenly shot at by another car. Both of their friends were hit and passed away, so they drove to the hospital. However, investigators started finding inconsistencies between their two stories. In the recording, it's evident that Borland is nervous while recounting this incident, and it appears that the police are skeptical about the truthfulness of his statements. The police question whether the shooting actually happened at the location he claimed. They urged him to be straightforward and provide accurate information about where it took place. Borland explains that they were driving from the studio and took I-75 and 595 to get on I-75 South. He mentions passing certain landmarks like Chick-fil-A, Polo Tropical, and Target, indicating that the shooting occurred around that area. However, the police continued to question him, trying to verify the details and evidence of the shooting. The police expressed their doubts, highlighting the absence of shell casings, broken glass, or any other kind of evidence at the location Borland described. They assert that his story doesn't add up and imply that his friends may not be telling the truth. Borland maintains that he is telling the truth and expresses frustration at the lack of evidence found by police. They start digging deeper, asking about beefs and conflicts, and Borland mentions people talking smack on social media, jealous haters and that kind of stuff. But he ain't dropping any names or giving straight answers. All he's trying to do is dodge their questions. The cops also want to know about Borland's friends, their names, and all that, but Borland's struggling to give them clear answers. He talks about theft and social media drama, but keeps it pretty vague. He's making it hard for the cops to understand what's really going on here. At one point, the cops questioning Borland about not having a cell phone. They're like, dude, seriously, who doesn't have a cell phone these days? Borland claims he doesn't have one, but he admits he's on Instagram. So it's all starting to look mighty suspicious here. Throughout the combo, the cops keep stressing that they just want to solve the murder of Borland's friends. They don't care about other legal stuff. They're begging him to be honest, but Borland keeps dancing around their questions, making their job just that much harder. In the end, the cops are pretty frustrated. Borland ain't cooperating, and his story ain't adding up. They want the truth, but he's not going to give it to them. They know they got to dig deeper and wait for the trial to figure out what really happened. Borland's behavior and sketchy statements got everyone questioning the truth. The cops are doing their best to unravel this mystery, but it's looking like a mess. Some folks think Borland messed up big time. He should have kept his mouth shut altogether and wait for his lawyer to do the talking for him. Never talk to the cops without a lawyer present. You can always decline. If you're innocent, do not talk to the police. And if you're guilty, then you should really not talk to the police. Always request an attorney. You have the right to remain silent, and anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. When will people learn to never say anything to the police without a lawyer present? I don't care if they're asking for the time. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how this trial plays out, and if Melly's team of experts will be able to use this recording against Borland and make him seem like he was the one who did the dirty work. We're going to find out quite soon if this will be the case. Until then, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned until next time, and always make sure to keep it Rezzle.